So after playing the cease and desist gimmick for quite a while, it is now no longer a gimmick with the Young Bucks. They got a cease and desist.
Well, they actually got a cease and desist from the producers of was it Rick and Morty on Cartoon Network, because they had done a parody shirt for them, and that actually is what led to them coming up with this gimmick, which then became reality. Well, you know what? I mean, it's funny because on Monday night when they did that thing, the Being the Elite show, the last episode of Being the Elite, which is the parody of the DX invasion of Nitro from 1998. So they did that. We talked about it Monday. I watched it and you know, like my thought, and boy could I have not been more wrong. My thought was like, you know, people are just going to they're going to just laugh it off. Who's going to take it seriously? The one thing that I saw, you know, which I mentioned Monday, that I figured they wouldn't be happy about was them. I mean, I'm sure they weren't happy when you go into the crowd, you know, waiting to go into their Raw, and you do the thing of how many people here came to see WWE, and everybody boos. How many came to see the Elite or the Bullet Club or whatever they said, and everybody cheers. Obviously, WWE isn't going to like that. I didn't think that would be that big of a deal. But then when they had the guy in there talking about the free tickets, I thought, they're probably not going to like that one. So that one split second kind of did make me think that, you know, something. Well, anyway, the point is obviously WWE was not amused by this whatsoever. They did not find this to be funny or ironic or anything, given that they use this exact same thing as in their mythical version of history. Because, you know, like you and I both know that DX invasion, well, it was kind of a big thing when it happened. It had nothing to do with the overall, like, you know, they treated it as like the beginning of the change of the war and the significant thing in wrestling history.
That is nuts.
You and I both know that, like, had that happened or not happened, what happened in wrestling would have been exactly the same. This had no bearing whatsoever. You know, I mean, it was they caught WCW with their pants down. WCW kind of reacted bad, but they didn't know it was coming and all that. But, you know, it's played up in WWE history of the Monday Night Wars like this significant thing, and, you know, DX is the reason that they won the war and all that, and it's all total myth. So they're just essentially, but whatever, you know, they made it out to be this giant piece of history. And so these guys are just parroting it. And you would think that, again, since you've made this out to be this giant piece of history, that you would just kind of like, well, they're just parroting it and all that, rather than like be so upset. And they were furious, and they sent a cease and desist order on the too sweet hand signal and the using of the term too sweet. So the story's in the Observer if you want to read, you know, the full details of what exactly it's all about. But the gist of this is that I don't believe for a second that if this thing went to court, that WWE would have a way, would be able to back this up, because the very simple thing is that WWE never trademarked this until 2015. And they did when they got Finn Balor and Gallows and Anderson from New Japan. So then they trademarked it. But the point is that these guys were all using it. The Young Bucks started using it in 2013. So you can't stop someone from using something that they're using because you trademarked it, that they used first and they commercially used first. If WWE had you know, marketed it and trademarked it first, now granted there is the idea that they own WCW, and it was used first in WCW. But it was used all over the wrestling world, not just WCW. It was used in Japan. It was used everywhere, forever. You can't, you know, I'm pretty sure, but again, do you really want to get into a legal fight with WWE? I mean, you could and say, I'm going to fight them on principle, but when it comes to court cases and things like that, it's very noble to say you should fight them on principle. It's like, you know, in a lot of cases when things happen, when it comes to WWE and things in WWE, and then people settle, and in almost every case they do, and people go, they should have taken it all the way and everything. It's like, man, if you understand the big picture, it's not going to happen. That just is not how it works in our society. You know, I mean, you can every now and then, don't get me wrong, every now and then you'll find a Jesse Ventura the exception of the rule. And I want to tell you, when Jesse Ventura sued them, everybody from lawyers to friends to everyone told Jesse, you're making a big mistake, you're wasting your money, blah, blah, blah. But Jesse, for whatever reason, was extremely confident of being right. Jesse's a guy who always is right. So he's very confident about being right. And he almost lost the case, and he almost lost an appeal too. They were very close decisions, but he did win. But that's the exception of the rule. Almost everybody else, at some point you just get tired of spending the money, even if you think you're right, and even if you are right, you just get tired of spending the money. And to WWE, it's not that much money to them. It's to an average person, it is. I mean, the court system is like that. I mean, it's the whole Gawker case. I mean, a guy like Hulk Hogan, just an example, the whole thing with the Gawker case that came out is Hulk Hogan made, probably what? I mean, he was probably, before the divorce, he was probably worth over $30 million. Even after the divorce, he's probably worth $8 to $10 million. Okay? He's not a poor man. He could not have afforded this lawsuit against Gawker. He could not have done it. He had to have this billionaire, Peter Thiel, from here in San Jose, doing the case for him because Peter Thiel had a grudge, and that's what happened. That's the court system. It's a really fucked up system. It's not about right, and because the money issue is so much. So I mean, I don't know what's going to happen next, but I mean, I think the best thing for them to do is just creatively position themselves and do something creative out of it. But, going to court and going in a long court fight, that they probably, I would think for certain, actually, that if they went in this court fight in the long run, they would win. But then, what do you really win? Oh, you beat WWE in court. It's not like you can, all you're going to get is you're going to spend a lot of money and you're not going to have damages against WWE. Perhaps you'll get the case thrown out right away early. And that very well could happen. But it's going to cost you, a lot of money to do that. So I've just got the feeling that that's what's going to happen is they're going to have to stop marketing, or they're going to, they don't have to. They're going to probably decide to stop marketing this, but we'll see what they do. I don't know. And I don't know how, what they're going to do. It's probably no fun for them. We'll see how the public reacts to it. But I mean, it's fun, I don't know. I mean, from my perspective, I look at it and it's like, geez, it's obvious where this came from. I mean, it's, even though they'll of course deny it, the fact that they send the letter the very next morning after this thing goes up. I mean, and after, we hear that they're so furious about this thing. To me, it's like, I don't know if that's something to be so furious about, but, I mean, as far as, I don't know. I would have thought that they would have a better sense of humor, but again, in that case, in this instance, I was dead wrong. They did not have a sense of humor about this whatsoever. And I guess the free ticket thing, I know how people think there, and I knew when that free ticket thing was there, I thought that, like, well, they're not going to be happy about this aspect of that thing. But the rest, I always thought, like, whatever.